Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're all gluttons for punishment because today we're going to start drawing this hook. So in this first video, we're going to do a foundation sketch. The foundation sketch is essentially looking at this hook section here and reproducing that shape. Lots of tangential curves. These two curves, when we draw those, they don't actually meet. There needs a straight line in there to join them up. But otherwise, all the rest of the curves join up pretty nicely. They join up pretty nicely. One interesting thing I've noticed between this old version drawing and the new one doesn't have this 16mm gap. It doesn't have that 16mm denoted. The 82 for the radius is the same, but that 16 isn't there. So that's kind of interesting. Now, drawing this one, we're going to put it on the XY plane, just for the ease of drawing. And I'm looking for a place to start my drawing from. So I'm looking for a central position that a lot of stuff is sort of referred back to. And quite simply, the center of this central arc here is probably the best place to start my drawing. Interestingly, this is labeled as a diameter. I'm not really sure why they did that in this drawing, because it should be labeled as a radius because it's an arc. It's not a complete circle. Complete circle, yeah, sure. Tell me that it's a diameter, but when it's broken, it should be 35 for a radius. What is it going to look like when we're finished? This is what we're aiming for. This sketch. See, it's centered on the mantle there, and no, happy days. So let's get rid of that one. No, I don't want to save it. I'm in a sketch. No saving. There we go. Right, so standard millimeter. We're going to put it onto our XY plane just for ease, pure and simple. Now, in the center there, we're going to draw an arc. When you look at your arc commands, the one we're going to use is the center point arc. A center point arc is essentially exactly the same as using a compass. You put down the center point somewhere that you swing your arc around, and how big and about roughly where you're going to start it. So I want to start about that sort of angle. And like we said, a radius of 35. How far does it extend around? Oh, about there somewhere. Next, I need to work out where the center of this top arc is going to go. I'm going to have to go back and have a look at the measurements. So I'm going to position that properly later. I do want, it's a little bit hard to get it to clock on. Ooh, 0 degrees, lovely. Oh, moved. Doesn't matter. Let's do it this slightly differently. How big is the radius of this arc? When you go and have a look at your drawing, if you look back at it, you'll see I need to add a couple of things up. It's going to be 20 plus 38, which is obviously 58. But if you wanted to, you can type in the equation 20 plus 50, sorry, what is it, 38? Yeah, and it will work it out for you. Swing that in. I want it that one. A couple of things we want to do here. Dimension. Let's have a quick look at the back to this drawing. So, excuse me, this radius, it's 38 plus the 20, so that gave us that 58. Where is it positioned? It's 20 millimeters beyond this top circle, which is centered over there. So half of 38 for the radius, 19 plus my 20, so 39 for that position. Height though, from the center, it's given to us in a dimension over there, 85 high. So dimensioning, I can dimension in the center, pick the center of that one, pick the center of this one. Okay, that one was 85. That wasn't a bad guess. Now then, the center of one arc, center of everything. This one needed to be, what did I say, 39. 39, because 20 plus half the diameter of that circle at the top Now, like I said, these two will never meet. If I join those and extend them out, it's just never going to join up. So I'm going to draw a line from the end point of both arcs. And then I'm going to make sure that that line is tangential to both of the arcs. Happy days. Look at that. Nice. Perfect. Excellent. To finish it off, we've got a little arc running over this way. Drawing an arc. Look, I'm just going to position it here. Starts about... See how this is going? This dotted line is basically trying to create a constraint with an existing part of my drawing. I don't want it. Make sure you don't have that dotted line, or it's going to give you some headaches. Need to have a look back here. What is this? 62. There we go. 62, enter. And swing that around about there somewhere. Coincident constraint, really handy. These two arcs do join, so I'm going to say make a coincident constraint, join up in other words, these 2 points. That one to that one. There we go. Lovely. The other thing about them is that it needs to be tangential, a nice smooth transition with no bump, lump or valley in between the two. Where does this sit? Let's have a quick look. This center point is sitting, or it resides, 25 millimeters below that horizontal. All right, dimension, point to point, this vertical measurement, 25. All right, the inner part of that hook is now drawn. Fantastic. Now for the outer part. This point here is shared on both sketches. That one is 20 millimeters in radius. This next arc, this one sits on a 45-degree line. All right, this line that runs down through here, 45 degrees, measured from the vertical back into that left-hand lower quadrant. Okay, on this one, it's telling me that it's a distance of 16. If we look at the more modern version, which I've got printed out in front of me, it doesn't have this 16 millimeter part. So look, we'll do it to the modern one, and then we'll measure that just to see what that gap indeed is. Okay, but first I need to put in a construction line 45 degrees in this direction down here. Okay, so like I said, construction line. So I'm setting up to draw a construction line and a line starting from that center point down this way. It's not going to give me a 45-degree angle. I'm not worried about the length of it. That button over to the angle of degrees. If you look, it's measuring the angle from the horizontal, and if you go 90 plus 45 gives you 135 is the angle that needs to be at there. Escape to turn off the line and turn off that construction line mode. Now the arc, oh, where'd it go? The arc's going to sit on here somewhere. Now look, see, he's trying to make all of these constraints for me all the time. It's a real pain. Try and put it somewhere where you're not getting one of those constraints. To stop it from doing that, use your control button. If I'm holding my control button down, it's not making any of those constraints anymore. Now this arc needs to start, somebody around there and go around that way somewhere. Coincident, look, you can put a coincident constraint between a point and a line. All right, so it's just saying that that center point has to be on this line. Doesn't matter where it goes, it's going to stay on that line. What does it need to do? It needs to be tangential to that curve there. The size of this needs to be, I think it was 82. Yep, 82. They're touching. Are they touching? Not quite. So I can extend and I can trim. Yeah. This end of it over here, another arc. Out here, from memory, this one's 70. Yep, 70 mil. Whiz it round. Look, I'm gonna put this coincident in here. Those two need to touch. Those two need to be tangential. And last of all, this point needs to be in line with that one. So horizontally, with the center of everything, that one needs to sit on it. I'm not too worried about those two tails. I'm going to put in a fillet to make that 6mm spherical shape on the end. Between this one and that one, there's my shape. Lucky last thing, a line across the top, because we'll use this later on. Yeah, that is interesting. Two there. Trim that bit off. I'm just going to delete that line. I'm going to draw it again. I want it to go from that endpoint to that endpoint. Oh, I wonder why that's not locking that off there, but that's okay. I know it's going in there. It's going to help me draw my work plane, so I'm going to put the sketches on that my loft needs to be able to produce the shape. All right, so there we go. This is my foundation sketch. I wanted to label my foundation sketch. I'm just going to call it foundation. Happy days. All right, have a crack at that one. I better answer this phone. Have fun.